FlossTube, it's Jess from Jess Crafts Stitches. It has been a minute. My last FlossTube I recorded at the end of February, and now it is the end of April 2024, and it's just we've been very busy and I haven't had a lot of time for recording, so I've focused more on my other channel, which is a card making channel, Jess Crafts. And so yeah, I'm finally back with a floss tube. I hadn't actually done a lot of stitching either, so it's kind of one of those like, what would I even talk about if I did come on? So, as I said, it's the end of April, and we're still even. I was watching back my last video, and I was kind of saying like we were having this like back and forth. Is it spring? Is it winter still? And like we're kind of. I think we're finally into spring. We've moved mostly. We had a snowstorm last week. Like we had some snowflakes fall this weekend, and so we're really close to springtime. But I think that I'm like looking ahead and like, oh, I should start stitching summer stuff, but that's a little bit hard sometimes when there's, and again, it's still kind of cold or snowy, and then at the end of the day it's like in the 70s. So um but yeah, we've had a lot of work done on our house lately, and so that has been what has made filming a little bit tricky. But I finally have some extra time and I have some things to share. I have some finishes and Foley finishes, and I look forward to having some more time to stitch, so some plans and that kind of thing. Um, so an exciting, I'll start with my fully finished. An exciting thing that I got to do, and this is going to be an older stitch. This is from the beginning of March. Was Happy Easter by Primrose Cottage Stitches. And it's exciting because it's my first pillow finish, which I have not done before, haven't done since, but I haven't made anything really small. Like I said, I haven't stitched much, but I do look forward to possibly making more pillow stitches, especially from the series from Primrose Cottage, because when I did stitch it up, and I stitched this on like a 16 count, I think, and it made this really perfect little spot in my display for them. So I was like, oh, maybe I should do some more of these. And I did the like seam up the back. It turned out not too bad. I kind of liked that better than the patch because I thought this actually might involve a little less hand sewing than putting on a patch. And also I figured no one was going to see that. And I did change up the colors on Happy Easter. I was trying to find it here in my project book so I could share. So I used some of the other colors that I've been using on my other Easter projects, but I did switch it up and I used Serene from Picture This Plus. A lot of my Easter stuff had been stitched on Moon Glow by Picture This Plus, but for this one, I just didn't think I could get the colors. And there was like this little yellow chick. I thought he would stand out more in a different color. So I used Weeks Dye Works. Squash, I think, is the yellow. Amethyst was the purple. Malachite is this border color, and Strawberry Fields is the pink. So since actually, you know what, I remember why I did this. It matches the stitch, the Easter Peeps stitch that I made for my sister. And I put a little bit of walnut in the bottom and then a special kind of polyfill in the top, like not just the standard stuff. I forget what it's called, but I will put it in the video description because it just like gave I don't know, it like was a little denser. So I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I look forward to doing some future pillow stitches. I'd kind of been in a sewing mood, and I'll talk a little bit more about that because I have a couple other things that I sewed that are stitchy related. So that was the first finish. Then my other Eastery finish that I haven't shared because I didn't share in at all post Easter was the carrot car from Leela's Studios Bunny Parade Set 1. I did just the carrot car. I stitched it on the 16 count Picture This Plus Moon Glow that I'd stitched a lot of my other Easter finishes on. I did not do the road or the border. I figured I was actually, since I was going to make it into a square finish, put it in a frame like this, like I was going to have the paper frame anyway, so I didn't need necessarily the cross stitch frame. And this was part of a SAL by Mrs. AZ Family Zoo and Sarah's Stitchery. In each year they stitch a different car from the Leela Studio Bunny Parade. So I think Sarah's Stitchery has 3 or 4 finishes now, and similar for Miss AZ Family Zoo, so they've done a few. This is my first one. I didn't know about the pattern, but I really fell in love with the bunny car in particular. I don't know if I will continue to stitch them each year. I'm sometimes when a pattern like will come with multiples, I'm okay if I just stitch one. I still consider that like, stitching the pattern or using the pattern. Um, and I did make a few changes with this one as well to match it up to my other Easter stitches, because I was like, if I'm going to display them all together, it might be nice to like pull some of the colors in. So, but I didn't write down any of them here. They're probably on the pattern somewhere, but they're not in my cross stitch journal. But I do know that I pulled in a lot of Weeks Dye Works, and I think it called mostly for DMC. I changed this flag to be purple instead of the called for blue, just because there were some purple in my other stitches, and I thought, that would tie it in together. But I thought this was really fun. It was kind of a challenge for me because, like, I get a little bit intimidated outlining these kind of like detailed things like the bunny. I didn't make too many mistakes, which was kind of nice. And then also there was like a good amount of fill in, and I have like some days it's really fun to just have fill in because you can get a lot of stitches done really fast. And then other days I'm like, oh, I it's a little less exciting. So um but yeah, that was a another my fully finished, much easier, back to my sort of standard style, which I do have a video on. And then my next fully finish, I've actually already fully finished another thing for this frame, because something that I like to do, and I probably won't show you with that frame because when I was fully finishing the project that I'll show you yesterday, I accidentally broke the frame and had to wood glue it back together. So I'm going to be gentler on that particular one because apparently it's a little sensitive. But here on the carrot car, I'll show you that I can pull them off. So if you haven't watched one of my floss tubes before, I like to show that that's kind of my finishing thing. And then I put them on like scrapbooking paper or card making, pattern paper, because I do a lot of card making and pattern paper. So I have those supplies available. And that's what I do instead of fabric to back my um, stitched pieces. And so then I can change them out. And so I feel like it's just like my cat likes to steal my desk chair, and I was giving her some pets, and now it's like I feel like there's cat hair all over my face. Oh wow, that was super shaky. Sorry about that, guys. But she's all warm from the sun. She likes to sit next to my desk. We have a sunshiny, like morning sunshine window there. So this is Miss Lulu. Now I just have more cat hair on my face, but it's fine. Okay, so my other finishes. This is the Easter pin cushion from Natty's Cross Stitch, also done on 16 count Moon Glow. This was mostly finished the last time you saw it. I did make some changes. I put the word spring here instead of the word Easter as it was originally shown, because I wanted it to last longer, especially this year with Easter being so early. I thought it would be nice if I had something that like was good for all spring but had an Easter feel to it. And I used, so some of these colors are the same ones I used in this piece, so you can kind of see how they look nice together. And like there's the purple from the alphabet sampler here pulled in to the bunny car here. So Weeks Dye Works oak, carrot, camellia, I think, bayberry, and purple haze. The little bunnies are the oak color. I tried to stitch them in white, and I just like it was not looking really cute to me. I think I like little brown bunnies. That's the kind of bunnies we get around here, little brown bunnies. So it would go in this frame. But what's actually in this frame is my last fully finished piece. Um, I have a a personal challenge that I'm calling my Stitchy 12 in 12. My goal is to make 12 projects in 12 months at least. So I can work on more than that, but I want to start and finish, and hopefully fully finish. And so far I've been fully finishing one project by the end of each month for 2024. But it doesn't have to start at the beginning of the year, of course, but that's when I happen to start. And so for March, it was my little Happy Easter pillow here. And then for April, and this is, I stitched one other thing in April, but this is the thing that I started and finished for April. It is Plant the Seed by Sweetwing Studios, Sweetwing Studio. She had like an anniversary sale and I picked up 2 of her patterns. I'm still pretty excited to stitch the other one. But this is the one that I picked for the month of April. And I did also make some changes to this because I don't know, I don't seem to follow directions very well. Um, I didn't have the Weeks Dye Works Pebble Beach that was called for the words, but I really thought that the words would look nice in an over dyed, and if there was some like variation, because that's what really drew me to this particular piece is this expression. I believe it is it's from Galatians? No. It's inspired by that, I guess. So it's like inspired by a Bible verse, but isn't particularly a Bible verse, I think. Um, and so yeah, I picked a different overdyed floss for my words. It's Schenectady, 1223. I don't know how you say it. But I just thought it looked really pretty. And this is Zweigart Artiste Rustico Ada that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I also used Twilight for her dress instead of, she called for like a yellow Finley gold for the dress. And I thought it would be nice if I stitched the person in my favorite color. So I picked a dark blue because I kind of tend to like navy blues or teals, but I thought teal would stand out a little too much on this. So I picked the navy blue, and that's also why I put that like dark blue behind to tie it back in, because there's nowhere else in the pattern that the blue is. Now, if you had done the yellow, she did pull it into other parts, Susan the designer, but because I switched it up and pulling the yellow into some of the other things didn't quite make, or pulling the blue into some other things didn't quite make sense. So um, I used my finishing to kind of help tie it all together. So I'm really quite happy with how this turned out. I decided to stitch on a slightly smaller count just so that it would fit in an existing frame. And so now I have something to switch this out. When I pick my 12 and 12, I also usually try to think about something that like would be displayed for the next month or like would cause me to have more things to display. So that was kind of, I thought this would be perfect for spring or summer, and really you could keep it up all year long too. So I don't actually have anything for this frame that isn't seasonal. I have like I said, I've used my frames repeatedly. So I have You Know Dasher by Helen D, which is a great Christmas one that fits in this frame. And then I have the Snowman Sampler that I absolutely love how that turned out from Cherry Hill Stitchery. And then I had that Easter one, but they were all seasonal. And so I was like, I probably want something that if I don't if I don't get to a fall one or something for that, this is going to look great all year long. So that was why I chose, another reason I chose this particular pattern. So then my last fully finish was kind of like a surprise to me as well. I didn't expect to finish this, but once I'm trying to even remember when I did this because it's, like I said, it's been a minute. I'm gonna try to find it here in my project book. For my project book, I just use the cross stitch journal from It's So Emma, instead of, like, I know people use like the book of days and they really track their stuff, but I just know myself and I won't do this. Okay, so I finished this in March. I think basically like I'd finished all my Easter stuff but wasn't quite sure what I wanted to start next. I tend to do this too, like if I'm getting close to the end of the month, I know I'm going to start something at the beginning of the next month, because my goal with that, like, personal stitchy 12 and 12 is that at the very first of the month, I do a new start and try to finish it by the end of the month. So if I only have a few days left in the month, I'm more tempted to pick up my whips. So I did in March, and I finished Autumn Quaker by Primrose Cottage. And this is stitched on Zweigart Chestnut 18 count and it's stitched, the floss is the Gentle Art Harvest Moon. And I'll bring it a little bit. It does have a really nice amount of variation. Um, the light is pretty bright in here today though. So I actually feel like that doesn't, it showed off plant the seed really well. And then this one is maybe a little bit less well, but I thrifted this frame. And even though it is like a traditional frame where you can twist them out and that kind of thing, they still have that Velcro on the back because my goal is to finish all of my Quakers into this size or this frame. And then I can switch them out for the seasons. So I finished Autumn Quaker in March, which is a little bit odd. And I actually am displaying it. It fits no, not that wall. The wall behind me. So it should be there on right by my light switch. And that's where I'm probably going to keep this frame, although I may put it somewhere else and switch them out for the year. But I've just kept Autumn Quaker up because I was so happy that I actually finished one of the Primrose Cottage Quakers. I love them, but for some reason they're pretty challenging to me. I've been working on the Valentine Quaker for a while. This Autumn Quaker I started in September or October and finally finished it. But again, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think for me, it's kind of nice to finish one in a series because then if I like have a fully finishing plan, it's motivating to continue to finish a series because then I'll know what I'm going to do with it and it becomes a fully finished object quicker. And that's really important to me. I wasn't very motivated to keep cross stitching when I was just making a pile of finished things. And as soon as I started fully finishing things and getting like more things out on display, I was motivated to cross stitch more because I was like, oh, well, then I get to, enjoy all these pretty things. So I'm really happy to have one of the Quakers done, and I hope to have more. I will mention that in my plans. But that is my last fully finished object. And then something that I finished but haven't fully finished yet is Little Spring Sparrow by the Little Stitcher. So here is, sorry, like my finished stitch. I unintentionally changed things this time. I made a mistake. The letters were supposed to be in one of the, dark browns, and I had stitched half the alphabet in black before I realized that it was wrong. And then I was like, well, you know what? The alphabet's black now. I am not gonna like tear out half the alphabet. It's too much. So, and I still think it looks great. And honestly, I feel like if I hadn't said that, no one would have been like, gee, that black looks weird or whatever. So, I I substituted like one dark brown for a different dark brown DMC because I didn't have the one that it called for. So I picked one that was like close enough. But this is like kind of a series by the Little Stitcher. So she has like they're like bookmarks is the intention. I don't think I'll finish it into a bookmark. I think I will finish it into a frame and change it out. And this is stitched on 16 count chive from Seraphim. And I had talked about that in my last FlossTube that I bought that piece and I thought I had a series in mind. And so I've stitched the first one and then I bought the second pattern that I want from the series because there's many in there. So she like will have an animal, or usually an animal. There's sometimes some other objects at the top and then an alphabet. And the next one I picked up or that I purchased from her is the B version. So there's like a B at the top and then an alphabet. And so that's my plan to stitch next, but I haven't found a frame for them. And they're not all exactly the same size, so I might make some changes to make mine bigger. Like the B is shorter. And so there's like a little hive. Actually, I think I can probably grab it quickly. Sorry for the noise. My chair is very old and creaky sometimes. I just want to make sure that I printed the pattern so that you don't, or a picture of the pattern so you don't see the pattern. Okay, so this one, it has like these hexes at the top, and I might need to put them at the bottom as well to make the length come out so that these are like more similar in size. So I could see I want them to be able to be switched out, and I will put the Spring Sparrow up for spring. Then I have the Honeybee or the ABC bookmarks and there's two different ones. There's like also some small bees on the side around a flower, but I'm gonna plan on stitching the big bee because I like him. And I have a bunch of the Seraphim chai. So I have enough to do, I think, four more, but I don't know. I think I might want more than four more. So it's kind of hard because I'm like, do I want a fall one or a Halloween one? Do I want a winter one or a Christmas one? Or do I want like winter and Christmas? Um, or like, do I want an Easter one? Because I picked the spring pattern because I knew I wouldn't finish it by Easter. So perhaps next year I want to like stitch the bunny or something. So we might need more chai. It's in my cart right now, and I'm trying to decide. I think I should get it before there isn't any more. Because if I want to keep, and not that I have to stitch them all, I could like, because they're not going to be displayed at the same time, so no one's going to think, oh, isn't that frame supposed to have a different color in it? But I thought it'd be nice to have some cohesiveness to it. So yeah, I plan at some point to stitch the bee. I have the chai has been cut up into pieces that will be the right size for these bookmarks, and I have to just find a finishing piece, like a frame or something to put them all in. So maybe a trip to Michael's is in order soon or something like that. I do try to like thrift too, but I did look at the thrift store yesterday and I don't think I saw anything that's quite right. But I'll usually like make a note in my phone about like if there's this particular size of stitch that I'm looking for a frame for so that I can work on that. And then that's all my finishes. So in some ways, not a lot of stuff. In some ways, quite a, like, at least I fully finished most of them. So that feels good for the 2 months. And there were some small pieces, but that's fine. That's what I like to stitch anyway. And it felt great to finish a longer term whip as part of it as well. So now I want to share my new starts slash whips since we last spoke. And so I guess the one that I've started two since then. One was the market pattern that I was, I guess, most excited about because I didn't purchase a lot of market patterns, but I did purchase Rascals by Pedal Pusher. And as you can see, I'm a pretty good amount of the way through. It's kind of an Easter pattern, not terribly much so though, because it's really just carrots, and so I think it's great for all spring long. But um, I did get a start on that, and I didn't like pressure myself to finish it because I knew I wasn't going to finish it by Easter anyway. And so if I didn't finish it for this particular spring, that would be fine. So I started that also at the end of March. And didn't write down what I'm stitching it on. I made a couple floss subs just because I didn't like have the DMC, so I picked something close. And I'm stitching it on Picture This Plus Heartland, which I think is a really nice neutral. I've been kind of trying to figure out like what's my neutral from Picture This Plus because I really like their fabric, and I'm pretty happy with that as a neutral. It's a little more washed out because it's pretty bright in here today, but could be worse. So yeah, and then that I'll use that as an opportunity to share with you these. So I made myself little like thread beds, basically. This is what I was talking earlier about how I was in the mood to stitch, like sewing. Sorry, not stitch. Well, I don't know, it's hard. I was in a sewing mood. I had my sewing machine out to stitch these, and that's kind of what inspired me to try this pillow finish instead of a little frame. And so anyway, I was making these little like thread bed type things for myself. And so they're like little cam snaps on them. And as you can see, I'm not a fancy stitcher because I did not like when it came time to turn this on side and then like finish it. In theory, I should have like hand sewed that or whatever, but I just ran it across my machine because I was like, well, when it's closed, you won't notice it. And also it's like this is for me. So it's faster to just stitch the like top stitch the seam kind of thing. And it has two pockets so that I can kind of like lay it across the couch, like the arm of the couch. And I thought, well, I can put my scissor on one side so that because I have a tendency to like place my scissor down on the couch and I don't want to get poked by my scissor. So I thought that would be nice to like have it in a pocket so that it's not getting lost all the time. And you certainly could put like a little, you could put your needle through here too to hold it if you needed to. Sometimes I need to cut some smaller pieces of floss, particularly this pattern. Like I keep cutting the greens into like little smaller pieces so that I'm not wasting a bunch of floss or having to carry it across the back. My stitching on the back isn't super pretty, but it's not terrible. And I'm trying to not like, like if you were to take the green and pull it over to the next one, that's a lot. I'll move it over a few stitches as you can see here. But that was a little like would be a little extreme. So like it's a nice place to rest those little pieces of floss while you wait to use the next one. And then on this side, my thought is I can put all my little orts, like the little leftover bits of thread. I think that's like the special cross stitch term for them. Old raggedy threads is what I think that stands for. Anyway, I put my little scraps there so that way I'm not leaving them around. As you saw earlier, I have a kitty cat and she might want to eat those. So it's important that they get thrown out. So I made myself a bunch of these. I saw this. This is made of flannel from Joann Fabrics. And that way kind of like the thread grabs onto it because of the flannel. And I saw this particular pattern at Joann's and it like really thought reminded me a lot of the Rascals pattern. So I was like, I'm gonna make this my spring one. And then I stitched a whole bunch of them. I've picked some different flannel fabrics that I like because apparently they have holiday ones even all year long. So I have like winter, oh, and Halloween. I keep making them upside down. Valentine's Day, I guess. It's not too Valentine-y, but I also was kind of like, I'm gonna pick something so that I can get one color of solid and then I can use it across multiple because that way just like I'm not buying a whole bunch of extra fabric. So there's a little bit of solid in the center and then a little bit wrapped around it. Another sort of wintry one. This is more just a general one. I think boxes are cute. I need some for non-holiday projects. And then I found a camping one, which I'll show you my camping project because we are enjoying camping. So I've done a couple of camping stitches and I just thought it would be like when I think of summer now, I kind of think of camping. So this is sort of, I guess, like my summer bag for my summer projects. I don't know. So that will lead me into my next whip, which goes with my little summer thread bed, and that is Starry Skies by Cherry Hill Stitchery. This is the one that I'm working on right now as I wait for it to be May and start my new May project. So I haven't made too much progress on this. I've started the tent though and finished the skies word at the top, but it's still nice to have something to put a couple stitches into while I'm waiting for my next new start. And this is on 14 count navy. So while it's a dark fabric, because it's 14 count, it's pretty easy to see. I haven't even been putting in a hoop because it's kind of a stiffer fabric too. So it's an easy one to like pick up and put a few stitches in. And then maybe as we get closer to summer, I'll make a point to finish it off. And I'm using all DMCs on that, even though it has some called for weeks, because I started that a long time ago before I'd really bought much overdyed floss. I have also, as I've been between projects, put a few stitches into the Valentine Quaker because like I said, I do want to have them finished. I do want to put them in that frame. So I thought, maybe I could leave this till January or I could put a thread in here and there. So like just be like, I'm just gonna stitch one floss length worth of stitching for a project, and if I want to keep going, I'll keep going, and if not, then I'll still slowly be making progress. So I've been touching that one as well. And then my leap year start. So the camping stitcher was having a leap year sale because, and again, this is like the day after I recorded, so um it's it's been a long time. So this is what I started for the leap year sow. And I know the idea wouldn't be to necessarily like finish it this year. You could like work on it probably not every leap year. That would take a really long time, but they're like checking in on the 29th of every month. So that's today, actually. And so I decided I would use that as a motivation to start Hello Autumn because I wanted to finish this. Last time I showed you Hello Spring and Winter, maybe were both finished last time. And so I did eventually want to finish this one. And this is like a perfect fill-in situation. So when I have time where I'm like, I don't really want to follow a pattern too closely, I just want to fill it in, that helped me to get the Hello and Autumn part done. And now to stitch the scene, I've got to focus a little bit more. So that'll probably be a little more slow going. I haven't touched this in a while, but it was a good reason to get this started. And it also will be like a good portion of the way through so that when we do get closer to autumn and I just want it finished, I'll have a really nice start on it. And this is my little fall thread bed that goes with it. So I think that's my finished, or fully finished, my finished, and my whips. And then the only strong plan, I showed you that bee thing that I do have kitted. Well, it's not even kitted up completely. But that is something I will want to work on. But for my 12 in 12 goal, where I pick something that I want to finish from the first to the end and hopefully fully finish, I decided to make a, who knows? I still feel really kind of scared of this choice. I picked the Honeybee Quaker, and I feel scared of that choice, not because, I mean, I absolutely could do it, of course. I love it. But they do take me a long time. For whatever reason. Like, I've never finished one in a month. I started the Valentine Quaker thinking I'd finish it in February. I did not. So this feels like a bold choice. I'm wondering if the color changes would actually make it easier for me to follow because I'll be able to, like, do a more clear thing. I don't know. But I really, really want another Quaker. And I have Autumn Quaker displayed. It'd be nice to have a more general one displayed or a more summery one, I guess, because I think bees and summer, or even in a little bit with spring, like that's kind of like the trendy thing, and I like the trend, so I'm gonna go with it. So yeah, I'm gonna just stitch it on white, which I believe is what is called for. And I'm using mostly the called for threads, but I am going to stitch, or I'm going to use some dark blues instead of the grays. So I picked 939 and 823 DMCs, and I picked one a little bit brighter teal for one of the blues. It's instead of 3813, I picked 959. And that's because, so behind me, you can see one of the other honeybee patterns. That is stitched in the called for colors. But I stitched, I think it's called, someone's like Be Happy, Be Kind, and something else. That one I stitched with a navy and this and a similar sort of teal. I can't remember which ones though, so they might not match very well, but that's okay. I don't necessarily think they're going to be displayed next to each other, and even if they are, like I displayed that one next to the one that's stitched differently, and they still look cute. So anyway, I really liked how that other one turned out with the navy and the teal color. So my plan is to stitch this one that way as well and kind of bring some like brightness to it because that's a little bit more my personal style than some of these muted colors. And so yeah, fingers crossed. Because I have done it every month. Like, I mean, not that I picked very challenging things. Like, well, I give myself a whole month to stitch this tiny thing. But, so it's a little bit more of a challenge for me. And I look forward to it. I plant the seed. Actually, I was like, ooh, that's kind of, it's funny. Some of like, for some of you, I was like, this is a really big piece. And it's, I mean, of course it's not very big, but for me, it is a little bit on the bigger side. Like I often will pick like really small things, and they're pretty spread out and all that too. So it's, even though it makes a slightly larger finish, it's like a lot of, letters and, there's quite a bit of space. It's not like it's fill in or anything, but I was like, ooh, this might take me most of the month. Whereas like Happy Easter took me a week or something like that. So this is probably going to be similar. It's probably going to take me most of the month. However, I really want another Quaker done. So we're gonna we're gonna take that chance and I'm gonna push myself to try to finish that up. And oh, there's a random needle here. I'll figure out what project that went to, but good thing I found it. And put that away. Then I think that's pretty much all I want to share with you. This is probably already super long. It's not too bad. I thought it could be worse. But hopefully, I really like seeing things that people are either working on or finished, because I find that, like, especially when they've like done some changes to it, because I'm like, ooh, okay, maybe I like to do that color scheme or something. Oh, and the blue and teal was inspired by Color and Cotton. They did a version of one of the honey things from Primrose Cottage stitches in a colorway like that. So credit to them for that. I have gotten stitch stuff. Like, I've bought stuff in the last 2 months. Not a lot in some ways, considering that it's been 2 months, but I've mostly been filling out my collection of DMC a little bit, because Michael's has had some like 30% off sales, and you get the rewards points and all that. So I've just been like, it's really nice to not have to go buy a thread for a project. So having a good amount of floss on hand has been nice. And so, and then I did get my Just Cross Stitch magazine, and I wanted to, Helen D pointed this out, and I thought it was really smart, which is why I now have a subscription. So even though I don't know if I'll stitch anything from this particular magazine, she pointed out that the price of the magazine, like to get a year subscription, wasn't much more than just buying the Christmas and Halloween issue. And so, if you were going to buy the Christmas and Halloween issue off the newsstand, you might want to just spend a couple bucks more to get this year subscription or the 2 year subscription, because now it comes with it. Like, I don't want, please check this before you subscribe. But that's my understanding, is that you get the Christmas and Halloween issue when you subscribe. So, if you were probably going to buy them anyway, you might want to just pay a couple bucks more and get the magazine, because then if you even if you find one or two patterns, it might feel worth it. So just something you might want to check out yourself if you are a Christmas Halloween issue buyer. And yeah, so thank you to the fact, I mean, 150 people have subscribed, or 158 people have subscribed to my channel. I appreciate that, especially since I wasn't even, posting videos in this time. But I thank you for wanting to join me, and I hope it will not be 2 months before I'm back. I might be more of a once a month floss tuber, just because I don't always like stitch very fast, but that's okay. So, I don't want to come due unless I have something worth showing. But I do appreciate that some people have taken the time to watch my videos and then subscribe to the channel. I certainly appreciate that. I look forward to discovering new floss tubers. I did mention some people with some SALs. So, oh, where's that sheet of paper? I do make some notes. So I mentioned Mrs. AZ Family Zoo and Sarah's Stitchery and the Camping Stitcher in regards to some of the SALs that I was joining in with them. I mentioned Helen D just there because I remember her mentioning something about the magazines. She's really fun to watch. She's got a great finishing tutorials. She stitches a good amount of like holiday smalls as well. So I like getting, like, when she finds something and I'm like, ooh, maybe I want to stitch that too. So I enjoy watching her. But then she stitches other stuff as well. She's got a stitch along going on with Erin Elizabeth and Cobweb Corner. And that, if you like bees, which I said I do like bees, but I don't think I'm going to join in on that because I have a couple other bee patterns to stitch. But I like to also watch Two Tall Stitchers, Two Needles Pulling Thread, Shari Moss. Shari Moss is also a card maker slash stitcher like I am. So, and she stitches a lot of holiday smalls, and she is doing some floss tubes with her sister, and they're really fun. And then I've watched Cam the Stitcher as well. She definitely stitches different things than me, but I still find her, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, ooh, if I stitched big things, I would stitch that or whatever. Like, she picks some really pretty things to stitch or fun things to stitch. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about today. thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing what you guys are all up to and start seeing some of the new summer stitching that will be happening. Or those of you who are just like, you know what? Let's just skip ahead and do some holiday stitching and get, like, I know people like do ornaments all year long and that kind of thing. I will see you hopefully not in 2 months. Bye.